Please listen carefully.
Hello, universe. Welcome to the Optimist Daily Update. I'm Summers McKay.
And I'm Christy Jansen, and we are part of the team behind the Optimist Daily, making solutions the news. We bring you reader-funded solutions news every day in order to change the tenor of news media, social media, and the direction of your day to help us all get focused on solutions.
7 days a week, we publish positive news stories written by award-winning journalists and delivered online to your inbox and through our social channels. And also, we are sharing these solutions in a commute-worthy, walk-worthy, I missed my home office-worthy podcast. Today is Wednesday, March 2nd, 2022. Hi.
Hi. So I can see the empty shelves behind you.
Yeah.
I guess, are you going to talk about your home water intrusion?
I don't know. I'm a little tender at the moment because we haven't fully figured out what we're going to do. But there was a water leak in our house. Kept blaming the puppy. Wasn't his fault. He wasn't peeing in that one spot continually. All kidding aside, we have had major water damage in our home. And this is the last time I will be sitting in this office for 3 to 6 months because I am in a construction mess. There's piles of rubble around me. And shortly after we record this today, I'm going to be heading to a new location for my Optimist Daily Update recording while we get this resolved. So yes, this fabulous place that we have finally settled into. Christy, we closed Escrow a year ago today.
Wow. Okay. So happy Escrow anniversary.
Yeah. But, it will all be fine. And we're, deeply grateful for this lovely home, and the insurance will solve things and everything will be fixed. So anyway, I will have a different home office for a little bit, and we'll continue to look for positive solutions news, right? How are you today?
I'm hanging in there. I'm feeling very busy these days, but all good stuff. I feel the pressure of climate change. I'm dealing with my overwhelmed anxiety kind of going on there, trying to journal my way through it and just stay focused on the bright spots in the world.
Well, what's interesting about the pressure of climate change, and I've spent a lot of time over the last several days talking to different construction people and contractors, and I had this really exciting conversation yesterday with a kid who works at the remediation company because his girlfriend and his family are all in the construction business, and they are moving their business forward by being climate mitigation construction. And so it was really exciting because we've talked about that on the Optimist Daily before, is that jobs of the future are about taking the infrastructure that exists in our world and taking the homes that exist, individual homes that are not prepared for an evolving climate.
Right. Well, not just that, but there's so much sort of the low-hanging fruit in our transition away from a fossil fuel economy.
Exactly.
Is insulation, switching out for all electric as opposed to natural gas, and building that kind of efficient infrastructure or backfilling in our existing homes and changing the way we build in the future. So there's lots of solutions, but sometimes the world feels dark and stormy.
Yeah.
And lately it's been hard to not feel dark and stormy.
I know.
But we have the Optimist Daily.
Can you tell that I am in such quote unquote crisis that I'm just in a solutions mindset? I'm like, wait, no, you can't feel bad. Here's how I fix it.
Yeah, that's good. That's the upside of stress, right? It gets you focused.
Yes, the upside of stress. Exactly. Okay, let's get to the news.
Do you want to do your story first?
Yeah. So since I'm going to be doing a remodel, I'm rethinking things in my kitchen. Not really. Kitchen doesn't have to be remodeled. And that was a terrible transition. But I will nonetheless continue. My headline reads, 8 things to keep in mind for sustainably sourced spices. So we think about a lot of the different foods that are in our cabinet and our pantry, but spices often get forgotten as something that we should be looking for: organic, ethical, fair trade, and sustainable products. It turns out there's actually a fair amount of worker abuse in the global spice trade. The story continues to read that some of the shocking treatment endured by slaves hundreds of years ago is still experienced by workers. So when we look into what companies we're buying spices from, ensure that they have an ethical human resources component to their business. So quality is a very important thing to think about. There's a lot of greenwashing out there, so be wary even if the container is labeled organic or pesticide free. Spices, just like any business brands, are concerned about their profit margins and can cut corners from mixing different ingredients from different regions. So make sure the product is certified as organic, that the product is from a small farm, is not mixed from lots of different regions. Because once spices are imported and transferred to a distributor, the origin of ingredients being repackaged and sold at the corner shop is fuzzy at best. One of the certifications you should look for is a fair trade label, which ensures the safety and fair pay of workers and fair prices for growers. The other certification one should look for in spices is Rainforest Alliance. These certifications guarantee a balance of forest management with a focus on clean water, healthy trees, and soil protection. It also means that the workers are in safe and equitable working conditions. We have a list of reliable brands for spices on the site that you can take a look at. I won't read them here because I want you to go to the article or just make sure you're looking for those reliable brands. The taste is improved when you are using some of these fair trade brands, these single source products, and you should, definitely look at your spice cabinet. Also look at your tea. Where's your tea from? Is it fair trade as well?
Right. One thing I find interesting about this is that if you have sort of that sustainability / fair trade emphasis, and you find sources that are certified by the Rainforest Alliance, for example, and there's a lot of that kind of development that uses resources from these rainforests, because most of our spices actually come from rainforests. Appreciation of the fruits of those forests could prevent destroying them for cattle grazing,
right?
Which is what's happening, or for other kinds of farming,
right?
So like palm oil and other things which have been so destructive in that rainforest belt, in the tropical belt.
It's not only protecting the rainforest, but it's actually elevating the protection of it.
Elevating the rainforest.
Right? Yeah. It's creating an economic reason to have more protections, because you don't want to lose that biodiversity that creates these amazing spices.
If we as consumers can help to focus that kind of energy in our spice cabinets, that would be great. My story actually has to do with forests in Africa, also in that part of the world, although spices also come from other tropical regions. My headline reads, "This Kenyan community regrew its forest." And this is something I always love reading about. And we write a lot of things like this on the Optimist Daily because we love stories about fighting deforestation and spurring reforestation. We see forests as our friends. They are biodiverse habitats for myriad wildlife. They foster ecological diversity. They are carbon dioxide sinks. They help create oxygen, cleansing of our atmosphere, do a lot of heavy lifting when it comes to reducing floods. And so they are super important, and we got to preserve them where we can. So in Kenya, the Mirema Community Forest Association, or CFA, has greatly reduced its own flooding problems by reforesting 50% of its forests that were overlogged over the last few decades. And so just 5 years ago, 2,000 acres of the Mirema forest was almost completely stripped of its trees. It was excessively logged. Charcoal was what they were looking for. This was in the 80s and 90s, and it led to devastating floods for that community, the Mirema community in Migori County, which is about 300 miles west of Nairobi, Kenya's capital. And I think you spent some time in Kenya. Is that right?
Actually, no. I was in Ethiopia and Tanzania.
Oh, okay. I visited Kenya. I visited Nairobi as a kid when I was on my sailing around the world time. And then I was back in Tanzania when I climbed Kilimanjaro. We flew into Nairobi and then drove it over to Tanzania.
Oddly enough, the book that I wrote, Running with Kenyans, was with somebody who was in Kenya, but I actually never set foot there while writing the book.
Okay.
Random side note.
Side note there. But anyway, so vegetation plays a vital role in protecting against flooding because it helps to have that groundwater absorption from the forest. So the Mirema community crops were damaged by this flooding, and they're like, hey, we got to really do something about this forest. So they began their own reforestation 5 years ago. And since then, Mirema has replanted 300,000 trees with a 70% success rate. And so this has not only helped to reduce the community's flood problem, but it also sparked engagement from the Kenya Forest Service to come in and actually give them some extra support. So because other government-led reforestation initiatives under KFS have seen only about a 50% success rate. So they're like, hey, what's going on here? Partly maybe just the community involvement and that sort of ownership at that local level. Part of why they were successful, according to this article, is that it used two separate reforestation methods, which sort of reinforced each other. They use natural regeneration and also establishment planting. Natural regeneration involves planting seedlings from the existing diminished forest, which is typically been seen as too slow, but that incremental can sometimes be very important. And then establishment planting uses nursery grown seedlings that are planted at spaced intervals. By using a combination of the two methods, the CFA in Maremma was able to replant many species of trees which existed before logging and try to replicate that biodiversity that had been lost. Anyway, I just think this is a wonderful, hopeful story.
We talk about this all the time when we're talking about agroforestry and biodiversity, is that regrowing a forest is not just planting one kind of tree.
Right.
And whether it's sustainable ranching, where you're integrating your animals with the forest together to, have biodiversity in general, I wouldn't be surprised if there was any additional agriculture in this area if that helped as well, right?
Yeah. With supporting pollinators and, pest control by reinforcing the diversity of the animals and vegetation. Well, that is all we have time for today, Summers. I think we have to move on. We have some other stuff going on today.
We do. We have a busy day.
Short and sweet.
Hey, everybody, thank you for listening to the Optimist Daily Update. We promise to continue to share positive solution-based stories with ideas on how you can participate in this changing world and ensure it is changed for the good. We also promise to cover the current events with accuracy, legitimate sources, and offer you the information needed most to chart new paths for all of us.
And so go on to theoptimistdaily.com today to see the rest of our headlines. But as always, we'll be back tomorrow with more solutions. For now, we're going to turn over our end to one of our emissaries, and they're going to take us home.
Hi, I'm Sienna Marie Sesma from Ventura, California, and on behalf of the Optimist Daily's emissary community, I invite you to consider joining us on our mission to effect real change with solutions-focused consciousness. For as little as $5 a month, you can support reader-funded, independent journalism and contribute to making the world a better place. Let's keep the Optimist Daily free to all who need it, supported by those of us who can. Tune in tomorrow for another episode full of solutions.